Thanks, Alfredo.
What a team.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi, Penny.
Hi.
Hi, Barbara and Martha.
Hi. Hi.
Hello.
Bianca,
Yes.
how many people are joining us?
Well, we had like about 10 on our list, but also David might have like friends and neighbors who want to join directly from Orvieto, because David and his husband Alfredo, that you see on the screen, they're both in Orvieto right now. So I'm just waiting maybe one more minute, if you're okay with that, to give everyone.
David and Alfredo, I'm sure we have friends in common. My husband and I have been to Orvieto every year for 17 years.
Oh my God, I'm sure. Then definitely, yes.
I'm sure we have friends in common.
Wow.
And I had heard the story that is in your book. I had heard of that story.
The true story.
The actual suicide of the
I know.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it is.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, I really miss being there for sure.
When was your last time?
2019.
Okay. Yes, it was the same for us until we came last week. Yeah.
Right.
We really missed it.
Oh, well.
How are things there now?
Okay.
David, are you with us?
Yes, it's unusually normal. I mean, people are outside enjoying it. I mean, people inside wearing masks. There's no vaccine hesitancy here. Everyone's just very conscious of it. It's I'm glad we're here this summer. I'm actually going to, in the next couple of weeks, write an article and submit it to the Chronicle and also the Times about what it's like traveling in Europe during this kind of strange summer.
You know the Lamberto Bernardini, who owns the Orvieton on Via del Duomo?
Yes, we have met. Absolutely.
Yeah, he and his wife Lorella are very, 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 very close friends. Their daughter Julia stayed with us for a month a number of years ago.
Wow.
But we're very, very.
Tomorrow, I will make a point of stopping in.
Oh, sure. It's been horrible for them.
Yeah, I'm sure. Though it's busy. This summer, we've seen a lot of tourists. Today, we actually saw the first bus with
really?
two of us.
Yeah. Lamberto told me a lot of stores had closed.
Yeah.
And
there are a few.
Before COVID, the Orvietanni would see the buses and not be happy. Now, they were happy to see them.
Yeah, celebration, I'm sure.
Okay. Would you like me to wait one more minute, David? Maybe if you were.
It's up to you. It doesn't matter how many people attend. We'll push this out on your website afterwards as a recording. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So in any case, I will see who is joining. So I will admit them as we go.
Great.
Okay. So officially, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this very special book presentation. And I say special because David Perry, the author, and his husband, Alfredo Casuso, thank you for being with us too, Alfredo. They're joining us exactly from the city of Orvieto, where his novel is set. So David, grazie mille for being here today, especially despite the 9-hour time difference. So it's beautiful to have you here, and it's beautiful to see the sunset in Orvieto. So it makes it even more special. And before delving into your book, David, I would like to thank our friends at the Pacific Italian Alliance for supporting and co-presenting this event. A special thank you goes to the director of the PIA, Andrea Songinev. So grazie, Andrea, for supporting this, this program. So before letting David tell you all about his novel, I would like to tell you a little bit more about him. David is the founder and the CEO of the public relations firm David Perry and Associates Incorporated. And for 10 years, he was the host and creator of 10% TV, the longest running LGBTQ TV show in California history, and now hosts a popular online interview show called Ahoy. Love the title. He has written for such publications as The Advocate, the San Francisco Examiner, Omni, the Desert Sun, and the Atney Reader. David, is it correct? Atney?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. The best-selling book ever for his publisher, Linden Press, Quill Driver, Driver Books, Upon This Rock, won this year's prestigious Silver Medal Ben Franklin Award from the Independent Book Publishers Association, and took top prize from the San Francisco Book Festival as Best Gay Book of Spring 2021. So congratulations on your achievements, David. Really, congratulazioni.
Grazie.
Bravo. David's novel has received widespread critical and audience praise and is currently being prepped for a possible film or TV show. I look forward to that, actually. Whatever it is, film or TV show, I really look forward to that. David and his husband, Alfredo Casuso, live in Palm Springs with frequent trips to San Francisco, where they maintain their public relations firm in the National Historical Landmark Flood Building. And David is also a member of the board of directors for the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. And now is David's turn, but I wanted to let you all know that at the end or during the chat with David, you can write your questions in the chat. We are very welcome to write them anytime. So I can read them to David, and he will be happy to answer your questions. And if you see in the chat, David pasted a link to where you actually can buy the book, and also you'll find his website. And so, in whatever question you have for David, please write it in the chat. And now I will shut up and let David take over. And but actually, I do have the first question for you, David. So, how did you get the idea for this special novel, Upon This Rock?
Well, first of all, grazie mille. I won't torture you with any more Italian than that. My husband, Alfredo, much more gifted in language. He speaks fluent English, Spanish, and Swedish, and is conversant in several others. His Italian is very good. And we are speaking to you tonight actually from Orvieto, and that's why we wanted to do this special presentation. The sunset is behind me. You may be having coffee at 11. I'm having Orvieto Classico, one of the wines which is famous. And I'm speaking to you from a lovely terrace of a Renaissance palazzo, which pretty much describes everything in Orvieto. The short answer to the question is, in 2014, Alfredo and I, my husband and I, lost our 4 best friends in very short succession, in less than a year, in San Francisco. We were their caregivers, and they were our family. And the last of 3, one of them we expected to die. He had terminal cancer, the Reverend Anthony Turney, Archdeacon at Grace Cathedral, and my mentor for more than 35 years. And he moved in with us for the last 2.5 years of his life. But the last month of his life, he was at Coming Home Hospice. It just became untenable for his care to keep him at home. And Alfredo and I pretty much camped out in the lobby to be with him. And one day, out of the blue, I received an email from a long-term colleague and professional friend, Tony Origlio, and his husband, Kip Vanderbilt in New York. And the email was very short. It said, "Ciao, we're looking to do a house swap with someone in San Francisco. Do you know anyone who would be interested? And out came this outpouring of the story that I just told you, because we really hadn't shared it with many people. It was just too personal. And he said, well, don't you want to know about Orvieto? I was like, small Italian town, 3 months, sounds terrific. And I went into the hospice room where Anthony was, and he was watching one of our favorite movies, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, Tea with Mussolini, roughly based, of course, on the life, childhood of Zeffirelli. And on the screen was a scene showing the wonderful Italian town of San Gimignano. And I told Anthony, we've been offered a house swap. And he said, where? And I said, well, actually a town, I think, kind of like that. And he said, when? And I said, November. And he said, well, I'll be dead by then. And I said, I know. He was very upfront and brave in his diagnosis. So he died just a week and a half later. And in November, Alfredo and I, and actually Alfredo's parents, came to Orvieto sight unseen for the first time. And we arrived on November 30th, 2014, which is St. Andrew's Day. And that night, a lovely woman, Cynthia Selfridge, actually we're in her place now in Orvieto, told us a story, a true story. 4 years ago on that exact date, November 30th, a young Catholic deacon in Orvieto had committed suicide because a week before he was to be ordained a priest, the Vatican, highly unusual, by fax denied him the priesthood. And he was so distraught, he threw himself from the walls of Orvieto, which is quite high, and he was killed. Well, this story resonated with me in a number of ways. One, I was very seriously considering the priesthood, actually a monastery when I was young. Two, I found the serendipity of arriving actually on anniversary just very compelling. And I found out that this story had resulted in a split on Orvieto between the Catholic churches and the Anglican community. And then later I found out during my research that the actual split between the Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant Church began here, literally upon this rock. This is where Pope Clement VII was, having escaped the sack of Rome, when the ambassadors from London came to request a divorce for Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. So this history started just whirling around and marinating in my brain for a few weeks. And I mentioned to Alfredo I had an idea for a book. And I was actually on sabbatical for 3 months, just off the grid. Alfredo was running our business. Thank you, Alfredo. And he said, good idea. And for the next 2.5 months, I wrote 6 to 8 hours a day, sometimes more. And I would say I wrote 60% of the novel in that time in Orvieto. And then over the next 2 years, finished it in August 2018. I got 2 offers from publishers. Thank you, Quill Driver Books, Linden Press, small California press, gave me a contract, and the rest is history. It came out during COVID, which I remember thinking, what a terrible time to launch a book. But actually, we found out that people were reading. And we wanted to come back to Orvieto last year to launch the book. So once COVID allowed us to, here we are in Orvieto talking about the book, which is set here.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a call somehow. You had to write that book. You felt like, well, it's a sign. I kind of have to write that book. What do you think, David? Is it? Did you feel like that?
Yes, I do. And I think it's interesting you use that phrase. Applicants to the priesthood say they receive a call. Women who enter the monastery or the convent say they receive a call. And all I can tell you is, if you ask me how I started writing or did I know how it was going to end, I didn't. I felt that somehow this young deacon's tragic story had to somehow live on. We actually later found the grave of the actual person who in the book it's dedicated to, Luca Sedeta. We found his grave. He's from a small town in southern Italy, in Puglia, I believe. Matino is the name of the town. In the novel, the fictional character, because I just want to be clear, my book is complete fiction. It was inspired by real events, but it's complete fiction. In the book, the young deacon, who is named Andrea, is from Orvieto. But we found the real deacon's grave, Luca Sedeta, and it was impeccably cared for. And this was now 5 years after his death, which showed me that he was really a beloved person. And as someone who was raised Catholic, at one time wanted to be a priest, his story really disturbed me and resonated with me. And as a lover of history, the idea that this very small town, I mean, Orvieto is very, very small, that the amount of history per square foot is just, it's like a broth that has been marinating for a long time. It's intense. You can't go a few steps without seeing a piece of Etruscan history or something about the German occupation of Orvieto during World War II, or about the Roman era. It just fell on me, all of this history, and the next thing you know, out came the book.
I see. I have one extra question. I have actually a few questions for you, David, but I was wondering, when people ask writers, oh, how do you feel about that character, or do you get attached to a certain character? Did you get fond of a particular character, or was it hard to feature that specific character? Did you experience something like that too when you wrote Upon This Rock?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, my husband Alfredo and I run a public relations and design business in San Francisco, and we've represented a number of authors. And I used to hear them say, oh, the character spoke to me. And I remember I used to say, well, that's the most pretentious thing I've ever heard in my life. I now take that back. I understand what you mean. There were times when I would be writing and I thought one was going to do or say something, and they did something completely different. It was like there is a way you talk and become attached to characters. Many people have seen similarities between Adriano Yata de Miranda and Lee Fontaine Maury, the two young men in the novel, between Alfredo and I. And I'm sure many personal experiences and personalities are part of that. But honestly, I think this is hard to say. I'm going to take a leap. Alfredo knows what I'm going to say. If you had to ask me my favorite character in the book, it's the character that is actually 500 years in the past. The novel is 3/4 in the present day. Actually, it starts on November 30th, 2013, and ends on January 6th, the Feast of Three Kings, the Befana, as it's called here in Italy. So it's a light mystery, but the secret to the mystery, the solution to the mystery, lays in the past. 500 years in the past, 1527, when Pope Clemente VII was exiled here, self-exiled to Orvieto. And I would say, because I love history and I loved the research that I did in the library here, I really enjoyed Clemente VII because in the Catholic Church, he's considered always in the top 5 worst popes. Sack of Rome, Protestant Reformation. He had a rough time being a Medici. And so I had kind of a fun time imagining what his personality might be like in another way. So I really enjoyed writing about Clemente VII, but all.
Good. Okay, thank you. So David, how is the book selling right now, and how has it been received, both like in the United States and in Italy, because you might have also an idea of how it's going now in Italy as well?
Yes, well, as I'm here at a stone and steel table, so as they say in Italy, tocca ferro. The book is selling extremely well. It is the best-selling book ever for my publisher, Linden Press. Quill Driver Books. So technically I can say it's a bestseller. I'm waiting till the New York Times calls it a bestseller before I put that on my cover, but it's selling extremely. The critical reviews have been amazing. Armistead Maupin, who of course is very well known to San Francisco audiences, author of Tales of the City, his review literally made me cry. He said, David Eugene Perry has written a twisty, elegant thriller. It could do for Orvieto what Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil did for Savannah. Jan Wall, who of course is very, very familiar to San Francisco audiences for her TV and radio appearances, Emmy Award-winning Hollywood reporter, called it a sexy Da Vinci Code. I can't wait for the movie. And Benton Johnson, who is a Guggenheim winner and best-selling author himself, said it was the gay Da Vinci Code, but a lot better. So the reviews have been great. The sales have been brisk. We're hoping while we're here in Italy to find someone, an Italian publisher, to partner with my publisher to translate Italian. But the English version is on sale here. A number of Orvatani have ordered it. I signed a bunch of copies this week. And it will also be on sale at a local store, Cafe Blue Bar, which has become kind of the expat spot. Basically, anyone who speaks English in Orvieto at some part makes their way to Anthony's wonderful bar, which is right across from where I started the book and where I wrote many pages. So it's selling very well in the United States. I know we have readers in several countries in Europe. Just yesterday, someone emailed me from Mexico and someone texted me from Australia. So it is selling all over the world.
Wonderful, wonderful. Congratulazioni.
Grazie mille.
And David, what were your primary sources for your research, during the making of Upon This Rock?
Well, so I did a lot of research into the lives of the popes. I joined a site because, as I said, I was off the grid for those 3 months. No cell phone, no email. The only internet I did, and I was very careful to make sure I only used a browser that didn't bring up my work. I went online to there were a few archives in England that I joined as a member because I wanted to read the original letters that the ambassadors from Henry VIII had sent to Clement VII. And several of those are quoted in the book. There's a wonderful library here in Orvieto. I'm a proud holder of a Orvieto library card. And a very, very dear friend, two friends, Massimo and Tiziana Loisio. They own a spectacular artisan jewelry shop here in Orvieto, Origami. They have a friend, Josepina, a wonderful woman, I would say in her late 80s. And she has what can only be described as an enchanted garden. And she had this huge book, all in Italian, but the lives of the popes. And she let me write in her garden several days and just go through that. So the sources were primary. And then there were a few stories in the press after the real deacon, Luca Sedeta, committed suicide back in 2010. And I did go through those and read those. And that was one of the things that actually spurred me to write the book. Having been in public relations for over 35 years, I understand when a story is being tried to be buried. And it was quite clear that, and I'm not making a judgment here, I'm just stating a fact, but it was quite clear that the Vatican press office really wanted this story to go away.
Right. That's what I wanted to ask you after this. So did you find some resistance, especially, among the Vatican, I don't know, personalities?
There's one of the characters in the book, Marco, who is talking to the two characters, Lee and Adriano, both public relations executives. Adriano is a real techie. Lee loves crosswords. He loves solving crosswords. And he just can't get enough of this mystery. He can't understand why this young deacon committed suicide. He said, there's something else here, something else here. And Marco says, well, the church. And he said, no, you don't understand the church. You're not Catholic. And Lee says, no, I was raised Catholic. And Marco says, no, you don't understand. That's American Catholic. Here in Italy, everyone is a little Catholic. Yeah. And he said, the Vatican is very powerful. And when they want a story to go away, it goes away. Yeah. And that is one of the things that led the character of Lee in the book to explore it. And one of the things that led me to explore it more, the fact that this story had clearly embarrassed a lot of people. There's a local journalist here, Laura Ricci, also a wonderful poet. I'm actually going to a reading of hers on Tuesday night. Grazie, Laura. She's interviewed me about the book. And when she first read about the book, she said, oh, this is going to cause a stir in Orvieto. I said, why? Do you think people still remember the suicide of Luca Sedeta? She said, oh, yes. So having been raised in Catholic school, I know that we always were afraid of the Vatican putting whatever you wrote on the index, banning your book. I remember when I was in 6th grade, the Vatican put The Exorcist on the index. Sure. Of course, we all rushed off to buy a copy. So I'm actually hoping the Vatican bans my book. It'll be great for sales.
I guess so, huh? Let's see what happens. That's great. I do have a couple of questions for you, David, but I also wanted to ask the audience if they might have something that they want to ask you, or something that they want to tell you. I don't know. I don't want to, push anyone. Penny, you said that you know Orvieto. You've been to Orvieto for many years. I don't know if on vacation or.
David, I'm sure you know La Magnola, and we stayed there for many years. And it isn't just like a place that we visit, it's just a place in our soul. It's the happiest we've ever been was there. My husband passed away 2 years ago, so I haven't been back. I came back just after he died. But we had heard this story. For sure, it's not forgotten. For sure, it's not forgotten. Do you want to talk about the story of what happened to the, why he committed suicide?
Sure, if you like. And let me just add, I apologize for interrupting you. The delay sometimes interrupts, but we understand what you mean about Orvieto getting into your soul. Perfect example. Last night, you know what it's like in any small Italian town. You say you're going to do one thing, and on the way down the Corso, 3 people invite you for aperitivi or Negroni, or the next thing you know, it's midnight. And Alfredo and I were coming back last night, and there was a table of people in front of Blue Bar, including a young couple, man and wife, from Belgium. And they were on holiday. This was their first post-COVID holiday. And they discovered Orvieto. They'd never been here. And you could see the look in their eyes. It was like a narcotic. And by that evening, they were at table with all of us drinking and telling stories. It does something to you. And when we left the first time, Alfredo cried. I mean, this is a special place. It's not just, oh, we like Italy. Actually, if you had asked us before we came, what was the last country we would vacation in Europe, it would have been Italy. We would have first hit Spain, where Alfredo's family is from, and now I am a Spanish citizen as well, or Greece, or France, or Portugal. We didn't have a lot of experience of Italy outside of Rome, which has always been our favorite city. I mean, it's Rome. But Orvieto has become literally our second home. And it does something to you that is hard to describe. I think part of it is because you are on a rock, you're insulated. You can walk around the whole town. It's physically beautiful, but not overwhelming in the way that a Siena or a Cortona are. But then in the middle of this very simple town, you have this cathedral that is completely bigger than the town should be. And I have been told the only complete Renaissance cathedral of that style, even Florence isn't complete, Siena isn't complete, but the Cathedral of Orvieto is like a jewel hanging from the sky. And at night, it just lights up. So it does something to you. That's my long-winded way of getting to your real question. The real story, the deacon was 1 week away from ordination, and he was very much the protege of the Catholic bishop here of Orvieto Todi, who was by Italian standards, molto progressivo, I guess that's the way you say it, very liberal, to the point where he had even allowed the head of the Episcopal Church here, who was actually a woman, to use one of the churches in Orvieto for her services. And this considered quite outre. And there were a number of people who were fomenting to teach a lesson to the bishop. And many people here, I'd say that was fair. Many people I've spoken with believe that the reason the deacon was denied the priesthood wasn't on the rumor that he was gay, because if that was the reason to deny candidates to the Roman Catholic priesthood, we would have even less priests than we do. It was to teach him a lesson. And of course, no one expected that the result would be this young man leaping to his death. What's interesting is 2 days after his death, the funeral was held in the Duomo. And for those of you who are not Catholic, let me just say this. Suicide in the Catholic Church is considered perhaps the gravest mortal sin. So for this young man to have been buried from the most important church in Orvieto was a sign of how much the people in this town loved him. And as you say, people still know this story and talk about it.
Right. David, so, well, first of all, Barbara, who's in the audience, congratulate you, on your book. And she wrote a question of the subject, and I love Alfredo's answer, but I really would like to read it to all of you. Does Alfredo do most of the cooking that I see on Facebook? And did you rent a car from the airport to get to Orvieto? I love this. And Alfredo answers, cooking is definitely my department. That's good. You're lucky, David. Yeah. And then there's some information about how they, got to Orvieto. So thank you. You'll find it in the chat.
I guess quickly what I will say to that is I'm a romantic, so I love coming to Orvieto by train because one, I love trains. I worked aboard ship. I like old-fashioned transportation. I love the sense of drama of arriving, and every time we are in Orvieto by train, we get a picture taken of us with the sign of the train station in Orvieto Scalo, and then we take the funicular up the hill, which was built first in 1888, and then we take a bus or we walk to our apartments. Very old-fashioned. Well, I turned 60 on November 1st. And we hike every day pretty much. We're in great shape. But I have to tell you, it's a hot summer. And after that last schlep this last time, I think I may have to give in and take a car from the Rome airport the next time. But usually we take the train and the funicular. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, the train is always charming, huh?
Yeah.
Traveling by train. Yeah. Unless you take, commuters trains, but that's a different story.
Yeah. Well, the one we take from Fiumicino to Tiburtina is a commuter train. Yeah.
Oh, it is. How was it though? Like in August, was it okay?
It was nice. It wasn't very busy. No, it was actually very pleasant. Yeah, and I think they actually upgraded. It was a different train from last time. It was very nice. Nice air conditioning. Yeah, it was perfect.
Good. Yeah, probably because in August Italians go on vacation, so maybe it wasn't, as crowded as usual. Okay, David, would you read a passage of your book for us? Would you be willing to do that?
Of course. I'm going to read you two short passages, if you will allow me. Very, very short. The first one is the prologue, so it's the very first words in the book. And when you read the book, you will find that there are two recurring themes. One of them is refugees. Everyone in the book, whether it's the Medici Pope or the two gentlemen from San Francisco or the young deacon who jumps from the cliffs, are refugees in a sense. Clement is a refugee from the sack of Rome. Adriano is a refugee from his religiously intolerant family. Lee, you find out, is a refugee from a horrible death of his entire family, which I can't go into because it will spoil the plot. And then, of course, the year I began writing the book, and still, the refugee crisis, people coming across the Mediterranean at great personal risk to get to Italy, is constant. You see the immigrants in the streets of Orvieto selling things and trying to make a living. So the overall theme is refugees. But the other theme is, in the book, a number of people are literally pulled back from the cliff. Unfortunately, Andrea isn't, contemplating suicide. And so the book begins here. He stood on the cliff and prayed. Useless, he thought, to turn my mind to God. Behind him, the evening lights of Orvieto reflected in a million icy crystals. Snow had come early this year. It wasn't yet December. Below, the road would be deserted. He wondered who would find him, and of course someone would, and for that, he was sorry. What a horrible thing to discover. The body of a reprobate crushed against the rock, and never to see forgiveness, never to see the face of God, never to see another sunrise. It should be beautiful. And he smiled. He had often come here to be near the altar and wait for the dawn. Tomorrow its rays would reach out to warm the city across a quilt of virginal frost. He had seen it before, prisms of color in the ice, like a miracle it had seemed to him as a child. No more. No more dawns, no more rainbows, no more miracles. Don't! He heard the scream, but it was too late. He had already stepped off the cliff, arms outstretched like a cross, and dived for the tombs below. So that's the prologue.
Wow.
And then another section that I'm going to read just a little bit of, which I really became kind of emotional reading last night, because it's about when Clement, the Pope, who fled Rome after the sack of Rome, came to Orvieto, and he stayed here for about 6 or 7 months. And Orvieto was in bad shape in 1527. And many historians credit the kind of rejuvenation of Orvieto to Clement's stay here. I mean, the papal court coming, no matter how diminished, brings attention. And Clement was so petrified of once again being trapped without a way of escape that he repaired the Roman aqueduct that had been useless for hundreds of years at that point. He restored several wells, and most famously, he built the well which has become one of Orvieto's landmarks, Pozzo San Patrizio, St. Patrick's Well, to make sure that the town always had water. So this chapter is as Clement is getting ready to leave. He's been here for 6 months, and aided by the Jewish banker Moses de Blinus, who has lent him money, he has helped restore a number of things. And actually, Alfredo, are you listening?
Yes.
Can you help me by turning on the lights? I need my technician here for a second.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Before I lose all light. Yeah, I think they'll
What
come
a
out in a
team.
second. What a team. Grazie mille. So May 1st, 1528. No, Alfredo, the light switch is in your salon on the wall. There we go. Perfetto. Okay. May 1st, 1528, the Julian calendar, Orvieto. Pope Clement was pleased. Like Moses striking the stony earth of the Sinai to bring forth refreshment, let now water gush forth from this rock to quench the thirst of Orvieto. The Pope hit the pavement with his crozier, and up sprang a geyser, raining down an unexpected enthusiasm on the assembled crowd, who rushed forward to splash in the quickly filling pool. How was that for my first miracle? Clement whispered to his Swiss guard Gio. Behold the Lord's mighty hand, the young Swiss guard replied in the Pope's ear. The two friends laughed. Your Holiness, you have brought life-giving waters to my people, to all of Orvieto, regardless of their faith. Moses de Blinus was beaming. Gentiles and Jews all thirst for justice, but first, they're just thirsty. This town will no longer have to worry about the safety of its water supply. Take that, Emperor Charles, Clement thought somewhat smugly. While you're tearing down Rome, I'm restoring Roman aqueducts and building wells for a weary populace. Clement the water bearer, I like that. Maybe I could get that bandied about. Orvieto will never forget you for this, said the Jewish physician and banker. Your legacy is secure. Well, said the Pope, that will take some doing, more than turning on a fountain. Saving my reputation will be the neatest trick since the resurrection, but it's a start. Every journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, said Sophia, stepping up between her father and her newly minted fiance, the Swiss guard Gio. Is that from the Quran? Cardinal Edigo asked, joining the group. Confucius, Hazan whispered, stepping forward and kissing Clement's papal ring. Wisdom comes in many languages. What a day. Clement was genuinely happy. What a pity Michelangelo isn't here. We could sit for a portrait. How I'd love to remember this moment. I thought of that, said Moses with a sly smile. Good people of Orvieto, he screamed through cupped hands to be heard over the joyfully noise of laughing children and chattering parents. Orvieto is the heart of our country, a city born of volcanoes and sculpted by the rivers of time. It is a rock upon which much history has been written, nay, carved in the rugged plinths of human record in the language of many peoples and many faiths. But once again, people here experience a conversion. Remind me never to speak in public after your father, Clement said to Sophia, whose hand he noticed was clasped tightly in Gio's. He's a Semite Demosthenes. I don't want to compete with that. Shh, Holy Father. Sophia touched her finger to her lips in the universal friendly rebuke of silence. He's getting to the best part. Clement of Beat crossed his lips in the sign of silence and continued to listen. Once here, Moses said, like Paul, visitors are thrown from their horse of previous perception and conversion takes place. Once here, they drink deep of the societal wine of this miraculous place, and all are transformed. Once here, they are Orvatani. They are no longer pagan or Catholic, Muslim, or Jew. Today, because of our noblest citizen, His Holiness, Pope Clemente VII, Orvieto is once again returning to life, coming out of a deep and frozen sleep. Because of him, business is growing. Inns are reopening. Orvieto is beginning what the French might call a renaissance, a reawakening. My fellow citizens, every day when you have a few more hours to cook your meals, play with your children, or worship your God, a few more hours saved, because now you can draw water from this well in the center of town instead of making the torturous trek down the mountain to pull water from the stream. Remember our benefactor, Julio de' Medici, our newest and noblest Orvatani, Pope Clement VII. And then I'll just skip to the end. The celebrations lasted late into the night. Many a besotted partier had lay sprawled, slumbering in deliciously drunken dreams on the steps of the cathedral. Looking out over the plaza and the early hours just before dawn, Clement smiled. Even the massive edifice of the Duomo now seemed prettier than he remembered. Everything was. As he drifted off to sleep, the tower of the Moor clock sounded 5 bells. In the last moments before sleep overtook him, on this rarely joyous day, Clement whispered a prayer for his son, Alessandro. Perhaps soon their reunion would take place and his joy would be complete. In a month, Clement was set to begin his journey back to Rome, a coronation for which he had schemed, but now was not so eagerly looking forward to. My God, he thought in the waning hours just before he fell into consciousness. I walked the streets today with no guard, no retinue, with no fear. The age of miracles, it would seem, was not yet over. Pope Clement would miss Orvieto.
I think you should make an audiobook, David.
Well, it's funny you say that. There are plans for an audiobook, and usually what happens is a publisher hires an actor, but I guess my 4 years of theater school are finally coming to some good use. The plan is for me to actually record the audiobook, so it will be a book read by the author.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I liked it. And also, Barbara in the chat wrote, I love your writing and readings, David. So yeah, it was great. Thank you, David. What are your future plans writing wise now, David?
Well, one of the reasons we came to Orvieto was, of course, to promote this book, but we were just in Spain for a month visiting Alfredo's family. My next book I've already started research on, and several of the characters continue, certainly Adriano and Lee. But the next book is set and inspired by a small town in Andalusia, the south of Spain, called Grazalema. And it also takes part aboard ship. So in the same way, it's a mystery, a murder mystery. And I love history. So I'm hoping, knock wood, as I get older, I'm hoping in a few years I won't be running a public relation business, and Alfredo and I can both be more creative. But I love interweaving history into the present day. So the current book, Upon This Rock, deals with the history of the Pope Clement, the Medici Pope, World War II, the Etruscans. And something I want to stress, because I read historic fiction, or I'll see things on TV, miniseries like the Borgia, and I'll see something and I know the history is wrong. And that really annoys me. So I can assure people, if you read my book and there's a date in it and it says something happened, the history is true. So that's important to me. So the next book, which is in process, the historical context is the Spanish Civil War, and a truly horrible massacre, true, that took place in the town of Grazalema, and the murder of the famous Spanish writer Federico Garcia Lorca. So that's the next thing. And then I do have a book that's been in my drawer for 30 years that I started writing during the AIDS pandemic. And I never finished it because I remember thinking, if I finish it, I'm going to die. I was a young man in my 20s, and we were all very impacted by the AIDS pandemic. And now that here we are, in the midst of hoping coming out of another pandemic, it made me think maybe this character can finish this book about the perspective of coming out of another pandemic. So those are the two that I have in the works right now.
Wow. Maybe more movies, more TV series coming up.
As my friend Anthony Turney, who's the inspiration for the character of Brian Swarthmore in my book, said, from your mouth to God's ears.
Oh. I have another message for you, David. Martha is writing, thank you. I look forward to reading your book. Orvieto is one of the first small towns we visited in Italy about 35 years ago, and we've been back a few times. Thank you, Martha.
And thank you, Martha. I can assure you that Orvieto is pretty much still the same. As Alfredo said to me, it's been preserving its history for 3,500 years.
That's good.
Thank you.
Oh, here's Martha.
Thank you.
Okay. Barbara wrote, thank you, David and Alfredo and the Museo for hosting this. Just wonderful. Come back to San Francisco.
We'll
Thank
be
you,
there
Barbara.
next month. We will be there. Oh, and just so you know, people have asked, you can buy the book at Amazon, but also it's on sale at Books Inc. Books Inc. Opera
Van Ness.
Plaza
Yeah.
and Van Ness Opera Plaza. It's on sale. I'm very happy of this because I really worked on it. It's on sale in Compass Books in San Francisco International Airport because it's a perfect travel book. So if you're flying out of town, there, and dog-eared books in the Castro, and actually any bookstore you go into, independent bookstore, please support your local independent bookstores. If you go in and they don't have a copy, say order it. Because it helps the independent booksellers. Nothing against Amazon, but if you buy it from a bookstore, everyone wins.
Yeah, thank you for this. Yeah, it's good to know. Does anyone have more questions for David before letting him and Alfredo go to dinner, I assume?
Well,
Yes,
actually, good friend, two friends of ours. One just gifted us yesterday with some amazing homegrown tomatoes, and another friend gifted us with some amazing burrata.
Oh, goodness.
So I'm set. We're gonna just do a caprese salad tonight.
Yum. Okay. Easy to make, but super yummy.
Yes.
Very,
Yeah,
you know, the perfect summer dish.
Yeah, and then we're going to have a wonderful bottle of rosé that our dear friend Svetlana, who runs the best wine shop in Orvieto, she gifted us with. So, grazie Svetlana. I'll be having some more shortly.
Salute. Oh, that's great. And also Barbara is asking, will you be doing a reading in the Bay Area?
Yes. So it's interesting you say that because of COVID, obviously, we did a lot of virtual readings. Just Thursday, my publisher, Kent Sorsky, and our publicist at Quill Driver Books, Linden Press, Jaguar Bennett, emailed me and said, now it seems like we're coming out of the worst of it. They're going to begin to start scheduling in-person events. So I know that Books Inc. Opera Plaza on Van Ness has offered to do a reading, and I'm hoping to do some in the East Bay and the North Bay, and then also we'll be doing some in Palm Springs as well. So, yes.
Beautiful. Okay. Okay. Look forward to that. Oh, well, David, what can I say? Thank you so much for this special
Oh,
reading.
no, thank you.
It was
I'm
really
great.
special, actually. It's like being there with you, looking at your background.
Well, I remember when we spoke about this a few months ago, and we started saying, well, maybe Orvieto, and beautiful, perfect.
I know. Yeah, we did that. You're right.
Well, please tell everyone in the chat. I mean this seriously. Armistead Maupin, who you've heard me speak of many times, always said that he answers all emails from readers. And I mean, here's Alfredo.
There he is.
If you want to be in touch with me, please email me directly. I'm always happy to take emails directly. It's very easy to remember, news@davidperry.com, news@davidperry.com. And please, if you buy the book on Amazon, do write a review. It's huge for sales. If you like it, say something nice. If you don't, lie. I have no problem with that. And if you're on Facebook, the book does have its own Facebook page, Upon This Rock, Orvieto, and I publish updates and whatnot. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. And David, could you repeat your email address so I can maybe write it in the chat for everyone?
Sure. It's news, just like newspaper, NEWS,
Mhm.
davidperry.com, my name.
davidperry.com. Okay.
Or
I'm
if you go to our website for our business, davidperry.com, you can just email us from there.
You find everything. Okay. Well, thank you so much, David and Alfredo. And well, enjoy your caprese. Kind of jealous. Thank you for joining us, and thank you everyone who was here today. Well, we'll see you in the Bay Area. When you're back. Okay. Grazie mille.
Ciao.
Buona serata. Ciao a tutti.
Ciao.
Thank you.